millions and millions of dollars worth of taxpayer-funded grants, which were earmarked to go towards DEI-focused computer science programs, have been canceled in the month of April so far. This has been happening over the last couple of weeks. Since the early part of April, it has been one grant program after another that has been unearthed, that it has been canceled, and we're talking millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of obscenely racist, crazy, and just sometimes ridiculous grants that are all focused on computer science and open source software. Now, so these grants come from a couple of different agencies, including the National Science Foundation and the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, the CISA, and as well as a couple of others. And I've been digging through them, trying to find my favorites, trying to find the ones that are clearly going towards, computer science, programmer training, open source software development, that sort of thing. I'm going to share with you a couple of my favorites that I found so far. And I really need to stress the so far part of this, because we only have scratched the tip of the iceberg of the grant programs which have been canceled just this month, just in the last couple weeks. We're talking maybe 10, 15, 20% of the programs that have been canceled have been well documented, right? And of those, I haven't even gone through all of those yet. So we're bound to find a lot more great stuff. I'll report on them as I find them, but here's some of my favorites so far. Here we go. $3.6 million to scaling and sustaining gender diversity in post-secondary computing. Yeah, this is going towards the University of Colorado at Boulder, and it was terminated on April 18th. Hoo-yah, $3.6 million. They were going to be fighting systematic social and structural disadvantages to women in computing. They were fighting women's low participation in computing is rooted in inequitable societal structures, and they were going to be building inclusive cultures in computing departments. And apparently that was going to cost $3.6 million. The next one, I just posted these a couple hours ago, and I'm still enjoying it. $2 million for the University of Oregon at Eugene. So many of these come from Oregon. I'm not even kidding. It's amazing as you go through these grants, how many of them are earmarked for Oregon. Oregon just gets millions and millions for crazy stuff. Researching equity, access, and learning in computer science education. Again, University of Oregon, $2 million. This was terminated just a few days ago on April 25th. Specifically, the University of Oregon will expand the Researching Equity, Access, and Learning in Computer Science Education project. Specifically, this is a partnership model that has established a wide national reach that impacts thousands of Black, Latino, and Native American students and teachers each year. So it's basically an outreach program for Black, Latino, and Native Americans. $2 million spent in Oregon on that one. No longer. $1 million, or a million, just a little over $1 million, for the University of Washington. They're in Seattle, Washington. Man, if it ain't in Oregon, it's in Washington. There's some in California too, but it's amazing how much goes to the Pacific Northwest. Collaborative research, an equitable, justice-focused ecosystem for Pacific Northwest secondary computer science teaching. It's a nice mouthful, right? Well, that got terminated on April 18th. That was $1 million. They were going to be building, they were going to realize justice-focused secondary computer science education in Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. School districts across the country need more secondary computer science teachers, especially those who share the identities and lived experiences of the students they teach. This project seeks to serve students and teachers who are women, African Americans, Hispanics, Native Americans, and or disabled. So that was $2 million. Or no, that was just $1 million, a little over $1 million, but no longer. Here's an open source project. known as Scenery Stack, inclusive, interactive, media open source ecosystem for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education. Now, this was an interesting one. So this was $769,000. It was canceled just a couple days ago, April 25th, and it was specifically going to, again, the University of Colorado at Boulder. There's another spot. The University of Colorado is great at getting the U.S. government to pay for things. And by U.S. government, I mean your taxpayer dollars. Now, what's interesting about this is Scenery Stack is a small open source project that specifically uses the Contributor Covenant Code of Conduct, which is a Marxist-inspired code of conduct, which is the entire purpose of that code of conduct is to bring about political and societal change towards Marxism and towards trans ideology. That was the whole purpose of it, according to the person that created it, the guy that created it. But that's not happening anymore. They're not getting that $700,000. Ooh. $1 million, just shy, $999,968. I love how specific that is. At that point, you're only what, like $32 shy of a cool million? Why not round up? You know, it's like when you go to the gas station and they're like, gas costs $3.27, 0.95. Like 0.95 of a cent? Just round it up, man. This $1 million was computer science in Oregon, anti-racist teacher leadership for statewide transformation. This was for Portland State University in Portland, Oregon. I used to live there. Termination date, April 18th. So this was about 11 days ago. This was terminated. And they were developing and promoting anti-racist computer science education in Oregon. Anti-racist computer science education? I'm trying to think of how to phrase this that won't be insulting, but what in the fart is anti-racist computer science education? I've never sat down and thought, man, this programming language is racist, dog. It's the most ridiculous thing. They're equity-focused computer science educators, so they're trying to train teachers who are focused on DEI instead of computer science. They're calling it, it will also cultivate a group of computer science social justice teacher leaders. We're building on what... I'm sorry, this is really funny to me. They're building on what they learned and applying it to developing anti-racist curriculum and equitable programs of study in their school districts and learning how to engage in district, regional, and statewide efforts to advance equity in computer science. Okay, it's just stupid. But that's $1 million that's not going to that program anymore. So, success on that one. Here's a small one, but it's so weird I had to point it out. $300,000. Okay, $300,000. In the scheme of so many of these projects, that's pretty small. I mean, $300,000 is still a lot of money. I mean, I wouldn't mind getting $300,000 from the U.S. government. It was terminated on April 25th. It was going to go to the University of California at San Diego. And here's the title: Generation and Evaluation of Culturally Relevant Computing Resources for Latins in Introductory Programming. Now, you're like, you're stopping for a minute and go, what? Culturally relevant what? So here's what it is. Culturally relevant computing resources for Latino students in undergraduate computer science programs. So the whole point of this is to create a culturally relevant textbook for introductory programming to address challenges of diversity, equity, and inclusion. They call this culturally relevant computing. So they're going to develop an introduction to programming textbook specifically for Latino students that is culturally relevant for Latinos, because Latinos cannot learn programming apparently without culturally relevant information in it. It has to be relevant to I don't understand. I was trying to think back. on all my time learning various programming languages, and I was trying to think if there was any culturally relevant parts to the programming languages I was learning, and I couldn't think of any. But apparently, Latinos have a hard time learning C. I don't know. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but 300 grand, also $300,000 to write a introduction to programming textbook. I'm sorry. That's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous amount of money for that. Okay. One more. $1 million, again, just shy of $1 million, $999,924 specifically, to the University of California at Santa Cruz, and to develop an experiential on-ramp to strengthen and diversify the open source workforce. Now say what? Okay, $1 million. So what are they going to use that $1 million for? The project aims to serve the national interest by establishing a successful experiential learning program for computer science students from historically Black colleges, with the goal of strengthening and diversifying the open source workforce, which is critical to shaping an equitable technological future. And they're going to try and get students from underrepresented groups, specifically at historically Black colleges, and funnel them towards making open source software. What? $1 million to do what? Apparently it's going to be very experiential. Thank heavens it's experiential. If it wasn't experiential, I don't know what I'd do. If you're wondering what experiential means, you're not alone. I'm not 100% sure either, but it's going towards just historically Black colleges and universities because they want more Black people in open source software. Now, here's the thing. I don't really care what skin color someone is, what their ethnicity is, what their gender is, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. I really don't care what the person, how they view themselves, where their great grandfather was from. I just don't care about any of that if they're building open source software. But apparently someone really does, and they convinced the United States government to give them $1 million to generate experiential programs to specifically tailor that. Absolutely ridiculous. But that's $1 million. That's not happening anymore. And with that, I would like to say thank you to all of the Lunduke Journal subscribers out there. Go to lunduke.com and click on some links. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerds and nerdettes, it's a good day. I do declare end broadcast.